Bonus. 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 Bonus.
Bonus. Bonus.
Bonus.
Bonus.
Are we live?
Yeah.
This is the live bonus recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
This is
right,
huge.
everybody. Master Gardener's been released. It's all everyone's talking about.
Yeah. I was. My friend was just showing me some TikToks. All the TikTok teens are really like juiced up for a Master Gardener.
Yeah, the Paul Schrader challenge.
Yeah. So what I've been doing is the Paul Schrader challenge, which is a TikTok challenge that started a few years ago. I guess First Reformed was a big film for Paul Schrader that kind of
definitely
reinvigorated his career in some way. Even though for the real Schrader heads, we know
he never went away.
Yeah, he's always been vigorated. He's always been filled with vigor, and so I Master Gardener's out. The teens, you can't get a ticket to it. It's sold out across the city.
They're calling it Schrader Mania.
Yeah. It's like all the girls yelling at the Beatles, like ah.
There's Paul Schrader stepping off of a
pudgy old man. He's like
plane.
just clinging on to life. I want to be upfront. I love Paul Schrader, and that's why we're gonna do this little bonus. I love Paul Schrader so much, as a writer, as a director, as an author, as a film critic,
as an artist.
As an artist, yeah. As a man, I've encountered in the flesh, in real life, 2 times.
Oh,
and maybe that's a good place to start. The first time was at the TIFF Lightbox in Toronto here. And he was not introducing a film. He was giving a talk about his book, Transcendental Style in Film, which I am holding in front of me here.
It's true, he is.
I believe this was when the book was reissued or put back into print with a new introduction, rethinking Transcendental Style, that comes with, perhaps you are familiar if you're a big Schrader fan, a Schrader head. It has the hilarious, somewhat incomprehensible diagram in the book where he's sort of expanding his idea of transcendental style with the narrative nucleus in the center and 3 electrons branching out: the surveillance cam, the art gallery, and the mandala. Right? And then each of these, on their way out, they pass through a ring. The ring is called the Tarkovsky ring.
Whoa.
It's kind of nonsense. Like his I think he's very aware of that. It's just like his subjective diagram of like filmmakers that he likes, filmmakers, the 3 filmmakers he talks about specifically in the original book, right, are Ozu, Bresson, and Dreyer. And this is sort of expanding upon that a little bit. I'm not going to get into it too much. Just sometimes all I'm saying is it's fun to look at the diagram.
Absolutely.
And to just kind of cross your eyes and go like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess he's right about that. Who am I kidding? Like, there's a lot of filmmakers on here I haven't even heard of, right? Like, especially experimental filmmakers. So
we have to create our own like franchisees diagram of all the schlock we've watched. So it's like Ariel Schulman.
Yeah. But we still keep the Tarkovsky ring.
You got to keep the Tarkovsky ring,
as a
of course.
good point of reference, right?
Yeah. The Brett Ratner elliptical.
Yeah.
Not that we've even covered a Brett Ratner film yet, but
it just feels like we talked about him a lot in the last 2 episodes, which we did. It was hard not to.
Yeah.
But okay, so who's Paul Schrader? Like, I'm going to assume people have a familiarity with who Paul Schrader is.
If you're listening to this with the title,
it would be unless you're just a loyal franchisees fan, which is great. But I assume you know who Paul Schrader is. But if you don't, here's a very helpful sentence I saw on his Wikipedia page that I think is funny, but also accurate. Schrader's work frequently depicts troubled men struggling through an existential crisis that is then punctuated by a violent, cathartic event.
Yeah, that's pretty on point.
It is pretty on point. Not all his films are like that, but one of the joys of Paul Schrader's filmography as a director, but also as a screenwriter, and one of the joys of getting into any auteur's work, right, is that they have themes and preoccupations that reoccur. And in Paul Schrader's case, it's not just like a reoccurrence of this theme or that theme. It's like he makes the same movie a lot.
Variations on a theme.
Variations on a theme, slight variations, which is what is so satisfying. Like so basically I'm doing this because I've seen all his movies now.
Yes.
I was really close to when Master Gardener was coming out. I just saw it last week, or earlier this week, actually. I had like that and 2 other movies to watch. So I just like went through it. I got them all done. Tick them off the list, which is sort of how I approach watching movies. Doesn't matter if you enjoy them or pay attention to them. It's just a matter of them happening in front of you so that you can tick them off the list. So that when you get to heaven, St. Peter looks at it and says, you lived a good life. you did what really mattered in life, which is watching and ranking every Paul Schrader film.
It could be worth noting that he was a film critic, then became a film writer, famously wrote Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, which you saw recently with for Scorsese.
Yeah.
And then he got into directing his own stuff, which, as you pointed out, focuses on a lot of lonely anti-heroes.
Yeah, a lot of Alex's and Ben's
in
his work. Perhaps this is why his work is so popular with a certain Alex and Ben type guy.
Yeah. Well, to be completely honest and transparent, I haven't seen a lot of the movies you're about to dive into.
Yeah.
The Paul Schrader films I have seen, I have enjoyed very deeply. I've seen those ones he's written and stuff. But I'm mostly, just gonna see, because this is the definitive source for the Schrader tier, all other Schrader tier lists, because there's a lot of them floating around right now on YouTube,
on TikTok,
on
especially, Twitch, on Grindr.
Yeah, so this is the one to tune into.
Yeah, please, in fact, tune out of every other Paul. People are going to be running at you they're going to be running up to you and on the street, and they're going to be saying, they're going to be waving a piece of paper that says, "Here's my definitive ranking of Paul Schrader films." You pay them no mind. Shut them out of your life and listen to what I'm about to say. Which, when I looked at it and built the tier, I was like, "Oh, this isn't really that interesting." It's only interesting to me because it's not like I have a lot of hot takes.
Well, listen,
you know what I mean? Like,
we have nothing better to do.
We do have.
It's hot out. It's been hot in Toronto.
It's too hot.
We're not even in the studio. We're in the studio's lobby space.
We're just lounging around.
Yeah.
You can hear our secretary typing away and taking all of the Paul Schrader calls, and people calling in last minute again to place their bets on what films will be in the S tier, the A tier, the B tier, etc.
And it should also be noted that you're just going to be covering his directed films. I
am just going to be covering the directed films. Yes. A note on the films he's written but not directed. So he's most well known probably still, I think, for his collaborations with Scorsese. Mm-hmm. So he wrote Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, The Last Temptation of Christ, and Bringing Out the Dead. And those are 4 of Scorsese's best movies.
There you go.
And Schrader also wrote Obsession in 1976, the same year as Taxi Driver. That was a big year for him. Obsession is Brian De Palma's one of his earlier films, one of his more explicit Hitchcock riffs, which is a really good movie, and a movie that I guess Schrader was maybe not super satisfied with, and has remade once or twice, sort of similar themes. Rolling Thunder from 1977 is an awesome movie. That's like a real Quentin Tarantino presents, because he named his distribution company after Rolling Thunder, like Rolling Thunder Pictures and stuff. Okay. He released those crappy DVDs in the 90s or 2000s, like Chungking Express and whatever, where you can watch the movie and it's great, but then there's intros with him and he's like, "What's up, cinema fans?"
This being Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. The Mosquito Coast, which I have also seen. All of the ones I mentioned would be S tier movies, with the exception of Mosquito Coast, which is kind of a little bit like more of like a three star sort of thing. Not a bad movie. Harrison Ford's really good in it.
I prefer Horsefly Peninsula.
Yeah, no, that's good because they're both flying insects. Yeah, and
Bloodsuckers.
Beach adjacent land.
Yeah.
This is good. This is the kind of riffing you only get on the bonus episode.
Yeah, bonus.
bonus. Paul also collaborated with his brother Leonard for a lot of screenplays.
For his first one, the Yakuza.
Yeah, exactly. And I would recommend you watch Leonard Schrader's exploitation kind of Mondo documentary, "The Killing of America," from 1981. Actually, Alex, you'd really like this actually because
cool.
it's like Faces of Death, but it has it's like more to say. It's more about like the collapse of like American society, but it's also super trashy. It's good. It's really good.
Does sound good.
And then Paul and Leonard, like you're saying, they wrote the Yakuza and Old Boyfriends, 2 movies from the 70s that I've been meaning to see, but I was not able to see quite yet. So,
do you want me to go through chronologically his list of movies, and you can weigh in one by one, or?
What do you think?
Do you want to start
from
I go the bottom tier up?
Go from the bottom tier up, maybe.
Sure, yeah.
Is that's kind of exciting then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because then when we get to the S tier, by the time we finish A tier, you're gonna know what's in the S tier because I haven't said it, but it'll be exciting. And also, let me tell you, predictable. Yeah.
Well, also because you mentioned a few of them a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, that's right. So if you've been listening, you probably know already. Okay. Well, let's go to the D tier.
Okay, so it doesn't get lower than D.
It doesn't get lower than D.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Dominion. D is for Dominion.
D is for Dominion, and D is for Dying of the Light. That's another movie. Okay. D. I like all these movies. Even I would say the movies to the C tier, I think are all good movies in one way or another. The C tier, there are things that I think are like, I don't know, for example, like a 3-star movie. The D tier is like under that threshold, right?
Yeah.
These are ones I don't think particularly work.
They're not 0-star movies.
They're not bad. I think all these movies are worth watching, and I think especially in the context of
Schrader Mania.
Yeah, Schrader Mania and exploring Schrader's career. Like, that's one of the great things about getting into a filmmaker is that when you watch their worst film or their like least seen film or whatever, you still enjoy the experience of watching it, right?
But oddly enough, Dominion probably was one of his bigger films.
I mean, yeah, just thinking about...
In terms of like studio backing and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and amount of people who would have been tricked into watching it just because it's like... Yeah, so, okay.
I'll hated Exorcist the beginning.
Yeah. When I go... so we're in D tier. I'm going to go chronologically. Right?
Okay.
So the earliest one I put in the D tier is Touch from 1997. It's a wacky comedy. It feels very different from Schrader's other movies. It doesn't fully work for me, but it's not bad. It's just something that like I didn't really respond to. It's fun seeing him do something like goofy because he's got a very good like sense of humor. It's just not for like something that is only a comedy. Do you know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Yeah. It's not funny. Like he's not funny. In the typical way. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we're in 2005. That's Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist.
Okay.
So obviously, when we get to the Exorcist movies, we'll talk about this, right? But what it is the less shitty of 2 shitty Exorcist prequels.
Right.
He was making this movie. Was still in Skarsgård. I don't remember what studio it is. Whatever. They didn't like it. They were uncomfortable with it. They fired him, I think. And then they got Rennie Harlan, who made like Cliffhanger and Die Hard 2, a friend of the pod, to come in. And it's not just a recut. It's a pretty different movie with different scenes, different characters, lots of different special effects. The computer graphic in these movies is really bad. Schrader's has a lot less CGI, but somehow the CGI that it does have is so much worse.
Interesting.
And it's funny. It's almost like in like Twin Peaks season 3 intentionally distancing, but it's not. I mean, it doesn't work like that, right? It's not a good movie, but all of it makes sense why Schrader would have made that movie. Like it's all part of his like strict Calvinist upbringing. It all makes sense. Like it's just I don't think it's particularly interesting.
Can I just say quickly, speaking of Rennie Harlan and Die Hard 2
Yeah.
and tier lists,
Yeah.
I saw a tier list on Reddit, on the Die Hard subreddit,
Oh.
and I don't get like, triggered enough to start a flame war in comments often, and I didn't. But they were like S masterpiece, Die Hard 1,
Yeah.
A great, Die Hard 3, which is really well regarded in that way.
Yeah.
And then Live for Your Die Hard. And Die Hard 2 was possibly C tier.
Oh, yeah.
And
No.
Yeah,
That's
I was
not
like,
right.
come
That's
on,
not
like
right.
rewatch these, listen to the franchisees.
Yeah.
Live for Your Die Hard, kind of a trashy movie. Die Hard 2, not as bad as it's made out to be.
Die Hard 2 is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. He's a crazy man.
Franco
who
Nero's
loves to
there.
kill. Yeah. He's got the bloodlust. He's
Yeah.
just sniffing it out. He's like, there's terrorists in here. I know there's something going on in this airport.
Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
And then Dying of the Light from 2014. This is another one similar to Dominion, where the movie was taken away from Schrader and completely mangled. And like as it is, that movie that was released, which very much looks like a bargain bin Walmart DVD. The cover, it's got Nick Cage during that time where he was doing a lot of those direct-to-video movies, right?
Right.
So it looks indistinguishable from those movies, but it's not. It's very much a Paul Schrader movie. But the interesting thing about that is that, again, sort of a similar Dominion prequel to The Exorcist thing, except this was not mandated by the studio. Paul Schrader recut Dying of the Light into an just over an hour maybe long experimental film version
cool.
of it, and he retitled it from Dying of the Light to Dark. So it's called Dark. And I didn't include it in this list, but I'm bringing it up. If Dying of the Light is like a D tier movie, Dark is like an A tier movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Dark is amazing.
Cool.
I don't know if it like counts as a real movie.
Right.
But sure it does. Why not? Like it's not like the Dominion thing where they were like, listen, Paul, we're sorry, the Rennie Harlan movie sucked. Like, come back in and make your movie. I don't know. It's like Lorne Michaels.
I like it.
He like took work print footage from like burnt DVDs of the movie. There's footage of him like filming the screen that's playing the movie. There's all sorts of like all the audio is like weird. Not legally sourced music and all this other stuff. It's a really good movie. I like it a lot. I don't know if it counts. Anyway, okay.
Dedication.
That's a D tier. Here's the C tier, okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I like these movies. Okay, chronologically, Light of Day, 1987. Light of Day is also something of an outlier. It's one of his movies that's harder to find, unfortunately. I'm not sure exactly why that is. But it's his 1987 like rock and roll like sibling kind of drama starring Michael J. Fox when he was sort of branching out from TV and starting to do more serious roles. Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett as siblings. Yeah. And Joan Jett like is maybe not the like greatest actor in the world, but has a couple of really good scenes in the movie. Like obviously the performance scenes, they're in a band together, right? And they're struggling financially and struggling to make ends meet. And she's a single mom with this kid, and Michael J. Fox helping to raise the kid, but also doesn't want to be in that dad role himself necessarily. They have a mom played by Jenna Rollins, the great actress from Cassavetes movies. And she's like in ill health and everything, and it's actually a pretty good movie now that I'm just talking about it. But there's just something about it that's like it's just such a weird movie for him to have made. But it's I guess maybe more closely tied to like the themes of Blue Collar, the first film he directed, which we'll be getting to later, higher up. One fun fact about Light of Day, he wanted Bruce Springsteen to be involved in the movie. And at that point, his screenplay was called Born in the USA. And he sent it to Bruce Springsteen, and he was like, listen, like, I don't think I want to be like acting in the movie or anything, but I really like that title. Could I use it for this album I'm making?
Oh, I thought it was
Yeah.
vice versa. Okay, cool.
And Paul
Wow.
Schrader was like, yeah, sure. And in return, Bruce Springsteen wrote the title track "Light of Day" for the movie.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. So Paul Schrader
He's
inadvertently
responsible for one of the
yeah,
highest
came
selling
up
albums.
with the
Of,
title. Yeah. All right, moving on. 1990, "The Comfort of Strangers." This is one I just need to see again. Like there were 2 or 3 I watched again to kind of jog my memory a bit. But "The Comfort of Strangers," yeah, is a like a fun like sexy like thriller kind of thing with Christopher Walken.
Yum.
Yeah, being cool and seducing a young couple. It's one I need to see again. Honestly, I probably should have watched it again for this, but it just it didn't really work for me for one reason or another. I wish I had more to say about it, but I don't really. Next, "Forever Mine," 1999. This was the last one I watched. Also, probably the most underseen of his films, other than "Light of Day." Just not available unless you have like the DVD of it or whatever. And this is a really weird one where it's like it feels like a parody of like a twisty "Did You Fuck My Wife" like erotic thriller, right? It's like Joseph Fiennes and Ray Liotta and Gretchen Mol, and I think I read somewhere that maybe it was a Letterboxd review that it feels like all 3 of them were like the 3rd or 4th choice to be in the movie. Like, why don't we get Brad Pitt? It's like, we can't get Brad Pitt. Here's Joseph Fiennes. Like, he was in Shakespeare in Love. It was a big movie at the time, right? He plays like a cabana boy who like fucks Ray Liotta's wife when they're on vacation, and then Ray Liotta is like, like a bad guy. He's like a crooked politician with like criminal connections, and he ends up, shooting Joseph Fiennes and leaving him for dead. Years later, Joseph Fiennes is like has this facial scarring and like, he's assumed the identity of a Cuban like criminal. He's doing a really bad like Cuban accent, and it's obviously that it's him, right? But he's like, I am a different person, and they just like believe him, right? And he like kind of slithers his way into their lives, and like it's really stupid, but and I can see why people would not like it, but it feels it's like so heightened that I actually really enjoyed what he was doing. It feels like it's a bit of a riff on Obsession, like I was saying, that De Palma movie he wrote. It's a really just like goofy movie. It was hard not to like it. And then I also have The Walker and Adam Resurrected.
Oh my God.
The Walker from 2007 and Adam Resurrected from 2008. So Adam Resurrected I saw when it came out, and I was like probably 17 or 18.
Yeah.
And it was very weird.
I bought a DVD of that at a Blockbuster when all the Blockbusters were closing and they were giving their sales. So I bought a DVD of it, and I'd never watched it. It's sitting in my bookshelf at home, at my parents' place, at my mom's place.
That is how that movie exists now, I think. And that's probably exactly how I
forgot it existed, and I forgot it was a Paul. That's probably why I bought it. I was like, oh, Paul Schrader.
Yeah, or like, Jeff Goldblum. It's like a leading role for Jeff Goldblum. Yeah, Willem Dafoe as an evil commandant. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So the Walker I think is okay. I think it's similar to like, it's kind of like an update of American Gigolo, which again we will get to later, where Woody Harrelson plays this like Southern gay guy who lives in Washington D.C. and is the a walker for a bunch of like rich D.C. Like wives, right? He's basically like their like gay best friend and confidant and escort and so on and so forth, right? And he gets involved in a murder. They'll throw him under the bus. It's it's good. It's interesting to see a Paul Schrader film with an explicitly gay protagonist rather than like one where that is more implicit, like in American Gigolo itself. Like I think he had said this is kind of like what would have happened to the American Gigolo character if like years later he eventually came out and like kind of stopped being like a gigolo and found like a slightly more profitable, like easier sort of avenue, which is essentially the same sort of thing, right? Woody Harrelson's doing very broad, like it's not like, I don't think it's offensive necessarily, but it's just that it's not just like that. It's not just that he's, like affecting a gay, like lilt in his voice. It's also that he's doing like a Southern dandy thing.
Yeah.
And the two of them together can be quite funny.
I believe it.
And Adam Resurrected is just really weird.
I should go back and pick it up.
I think it's actually kind of good. I almost put it in the B tier, but then I was like, I just can't do it because it's just the kind of movie that's like it shouldn't work. I don't think it really does work, but Jeff Goldblum's performance is really good in it, even though he is also doing a really spotty accent where it's like he's supposed to be, a German Jew who survived the concentration camps and is now living in Israel and at like an experimental therapeutic colony or institute specifically for survivors of the Holocaust.
Oh, wow.
And so he's doing this German accent, but he's also just doing his Jeff Goldblum thing. Right. And so it's really all over the place. But it is such an interesting movie. I think visually also like one of Schrader's maybe more like visually interesting films as well. It feels like the work of a very unrestrained artist, which is kind of what Schrader is a lot of the time.
I'll dust it off the shelf.
Yeah, exactly. And but it's hard to recommend. It's a really, I don't know, Holocaust movies in general, right? Yeah. I think the depiction and representation of the Holocaust is very cinematically fraught subject matter, I guess. And no exception in Adam Resurrected, which really goes to places that a lot of those movies don't.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Okay, B tier. Here we go. The B tier stands for Ben likes these movies. But not as much as the A tier and the S tier.
Yeah.
Okay. We got Cat People, 1982. You ever see Cat People?
I haven't seen any of the Cat People, I don't think.
Oh, man.
Is this the David Bowie Cat People?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
Putting out fire with gasoline. I can't do it. I can't sing like he sings.
That was pretty good.
No, if I could sing like David Bowie sings, I'd be David Bowie. I'd be a successful rock star in a yesterday style universe where nobody remembered David Bowie but me.
That's a good idea for
and
a
then
movie.
I would struggle to remember the lyrics.
Yeah.
And also I don't understand how music works.
Am I shitting in a film can? That's you trying to think of the lyrics.
Space Odyssey. Yeah. Shit Odyssey.
Yeah.
Cat People. He made American Gigolo in 1980 and Cat People in 1982. And like those two movies are some of the most 80s looking and feeling movies of all time. And there's really something to be said that this like, nerdy virgin loser, which is not true, but that's just the vibe he has. Was able to make one of the coolest looking movies of the 80s at the very beginning of the 80s with American Gigolo.
Oh, you thought you were going to say that was Cat People.
No, Cat People, I like. It's pulpy. It's like obviously a remake of the Jacques Tourneur Cat People film from the 40s, which is an amazing movie. This movie is not as good as that movie, but as far as like a fun, pulpy, like sexy update of that, it works pretty well. It's just it's kind of hard to take seriously. It sort of has the pickpocket ending. So that's something else we didn't really talk about. It's like Pickpocket is one of his favorite movies, right? The Robert Bresson movie. And a lot of his movies are just remakes of Pickpocket in one way or another. The Pickpocket ending is like, the main character's been arrested and he's with the kind of female protagonist or his sort of weird love interest. They don't necessarily
sometimes it's not consummated.
Yeah, it's usually not, and it's usually not necessarily like someone he's dated or even someone he's expressed his love to. And then at the end, like through the bars of the prison or the glass, he expresses his love
like touch fingertips,
and they touch
or
fingers, right?
hands
And
or-
it's tragic. It's like, well, it's too late,
yeah.
and blah blah blah. So there's sort of a scene like this, but it's like the main guy and a leopard in a zoo.
That's sick.
Yeah, I didn't rewatch this one because I had seen it a couple times, but I'm pretty sure it kind of counts as a pickpocket ending. Just
Yeah,
because,
totally.
but with the big cat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it was like Will Menaker with one of the Chapo guys. His Letterboxd review was saying something like, just because of all the sheer amount of big cats in the movie, they probably did have the highest ketamine budget of any movie in history.
That's good.
There's a couple stories too about it where Paul Schrader got so high, I think just smoking weed, he got so high he didn't leave his trailer for a few days.
He was also famously a cocaine enthusiast.
Oh hell yeah, definitely. He got his heart broken by Natasha Kinski, who was the lead in the film. Where they had an affair or whatever, but he was like in love with her, and he's like, I want you to marry me, and she's like, Paul, like I sleep with all my directors. It's like, oh bro.
You think she slept with Wim Wenders?
I don't know exactly how literally we were meant to take that. I don't know. Maybe. That seems kind of weird, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to make love to you now.
It's weird that she slept with Paul Schrader. He's like,
yeah, okay, fair enough.
He's not a, well, I think he's cute, but yeah. Okay. Patty Hearst, 1988. We know the story of Patty Hearst. She got kidnapped, Stockholm Syndrome, et cetera, whatever. It's a good movie. I like this movie a lot. It has the pickpocket ending, sort of a different variant on it, but a really, really solid ending. And this is great. A very kind of like, sort of similar to Mishima, his film, which we will get to a bit later. It has a kind of a stagey theatrical sort of lighting and blocking setup, which is very, very effective in that film. And then we jump all the way to The Canyons, 2013. His Lindsay Lohan, James Dean picture.
Not that James Dean.
Not that James Dean. The
disgrace.
Disgusting. Yeah, the rapist James Dean, who plays a terrifying man who murders women in this movie. And listen, maybe it's just that he's like tapping into what he knows or who he really is in deep in his soul. He's not bad in the film.
Interesting.
Lindsay Lohan's good in it too. Anyway, when this came out, this was like such a weird movie. This like collaboration between him and Bret Easton Ellis, and like this idea of Lindsay Lohan and like an actual porn star, and this like sexy thriller from Paul Schrader. It's something very attractive about it. And I think, a lot of people probably view it as like a bomb or a dud or whatever, but like watch it. It's a very sinister movie. A very like, I guess maybe almost Lynchian in its like approach to the evil inherent in like the Hollywood and like living in Los Angeles. And yeah, it's just an interesting movie, right? And it's similar to that Dog Eat Dog from 2016. This is the movie he made after Dying of Light that got fucked, and he was so angry about it. So he made a movie, Dog Eat Dog, that is very uncompromising and is one of the movies that feels closer to like his provocative Facebook posts or whatever. You know what I mean? And I like this movie because it's really trashy. It's kind of gross. It's kind of like there's just something about it that like it's just like juvenile. It's extremely violent and like offensive on multiple levels. Willem Dafoe and Nick Cage really, really hamming it up. It's kind of like it's Paul Schrader really bearing his soul. Do you know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
And like the things that really get him like angry. And then Master Gardener. This is where I put Master Gardener.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Latest.
The latest. Yeah. So not a bad movie. But I wouldn't say it's one of his better movies. I don't think it's at the same level as Card Counter or First Reformed. I mean, of those three in that sort of loose trilogy, I would say it's
the latest for Paul Schrader.
Yeah, it's not one of his stronger movies. but it's definitely worth seeing, and I enjoyed the Schrader elements in it that are there are very good. It's so satisfying. The very first shot of him sitting, Joel Edgerton sitting alone writing in his desk, we were hooping and hollering in the theater. I saw it with Jordan actually and Anissa, our friend, and we were all really excited to see him write at his little desk alone at night.
And the theater was packed with TikTok teens.
Oh yeah, people were just like, when Paul Schrader's name came up in the credits, like it brought the house down, right? But yeah, I feel like First Reformed, that really comes from a personal place. Like he understands that like religious existential like crisis of faith stuff really well. And the card counter, I think, is maybe still a little bit more in his wheelhouse. The metaphors around poker playing and things like that, they feel, it fits, right?
Yeah.
In this, the stakes are much lower than those movies. And that it kind of makes it feel a little anticlimactic. The other thing too is that this movie, this guy's dark troubled past is like white supremacy.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what it would be.
Yeah, spoilers, everybody. But the way that he's sketched out that character feels very trite and like kind of like it's a very specific version of what Paul Schrader thinks white supremacy is. That is not really necessarily like how like we view it in 2023. It's a kind of a dated idea of what it might be, like more of like a anyway.
Like he's a classic like hood wearing Klansman or something like that.
It's closer to that sort of rural, like Ozark style, like a bunch of guys with beards and guns and I think but at one point a character calls him a proud boy, and so it sort of confuses. Yeah, it's just and then there's a relationship, right, with this young mixed race woman in the movie that is like it just feels like he doesn't really understand that character. And like how that character would actually react to like learn the eventual revelation of like Joel Edgerton's past. It feels very much like a Grandpa Paul, like Uncle Paul's Facebook post style movie. Sort of similar to Dog Eat Dog and the Canyons, actually, in a way. So that's the B tier there. Master Gardener, like, go see it. Like, there's lots to like about it. It's actually a very sweet movie. It's just, I don't think it works as well as his other more recent movies. But that's a tall order because I haven't mentioned either of those movies yet, so that means they're in the A and S tier.
No.
Okay, the A tier. We got Hardcore, 1979, his second movie.
You know what it's about.
You know what it's about, baby. You've seen the poster. If you haven't seen the poster...
Yeah, you've got that good one in your place.
Look at the poster. Yeah, I own the half sheet of it. It is an amazing poster. George C. Scott, head in his hands, and a giant text, "Oh my God, that's my daughter!"
Which you told me isn't actually in the movie.
I don't recall him actually saying those specific words.
I need to watch that movie.
But he does... He is like whatever.
It is about George C. Scott finding out that his daughter is in pornography.
Yeah, she runs. He's I think he's even maybe a Calvinist minister or some type of religious guy. And she runs away from the home to L.A. He drives out to L.A. he gets a tip or whatever. And then the famous scene is him in the theater, and the guy's like, "All right, I'll show you the movie." I think it's Peter Boyle. He's like, "All right, I'll show you." He shows him the movie, and it's his daughter in like a porn film. And I don't think he actually says, "Oh my God, that's my daughter." But there's a huge scene, the centerpiece scene, where he's watching it, and he's really George C. Scott, like big acting, where he's like, turn it off, turn it off. It's so good.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
Anyway, so I like this movie. It's funny. And I don't have to say anything else about it.
Peter Boyle, who I believe his character in Taxi Driver is named Wizard.
Yeah, exactly.
Super cool.
Okay, right after that, American Gigolo. American Gigolo, the first true pickpocket ending of his career. One of the first mainstream Hollywood movies to have the lead actor show his penis You see Richard Gere's penis in the
Sick.
movie.
You
Everybody.
see his gear. You see Richard's
You see
gear.
Richard's gear. Yeah, and you see his ass too. Just to
His
be
rear.
clear. Yeah. You see Richard's gear and you see Richard's rear.
So sick.
Yeah. I think Paul Schrader would think that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry. The first time I saw him, right, it was at TIFF. He was talking about his book, right? The second time I saw him, it was at TIFF, the festival, outside of the Scotiabank Theater. I saw this guy, this big, bald, cherry tomato head looking guy, huffing and puffing up the street, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Paul Schrader!" And he was on his way to, I think, a screening of Dog Eat Dog that year.
Okay, cool.
So this is the year. This is the movie before First Reformed. If it had been after that, when he was a bit more of like cinema's loving grandpa, I might have approached him. But because it was like the Dog Eat Dog, Dying of the Light, angry man Schrader, still in the wilderness a little bit, and because I was so intimidated by him, I didn't want to say anything. But I will forever cherish the moment just looking up and be like, it's Paul Schrader right there, like just walking right by you. Looking like hurried and fussy and upset. It's probably best I didn't approach him.
On brand.
Anyway, American Gigolo, what do you say? It's such a cool movie. The Armani suits, the Giorgio Moroder score, the Blondie, like it's not one of my favorites of his movies. I don't really find the plot as interesting, but as far as like an aesthetic experience goes, it's one of his best for sure.
I need to see it. It's embarrassing that I haven't.
One that you definitely should, like, if only for the gear in the rear. Autofocus 2002. This one I did have to rewatch. The two that I had to rewatch were Autofocus and Adam Resurrected.
I have seen Autofocus way back in the day, like on a showcase like Friday night movie night where they show a cool indie movie.
Yeah.
I should rewatch it.
You'll like it.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it rewatching it. It was a movie I saw as a teenager, probably either rented or on one of those like early, I guess they're not really streaming services, but whatever it is, like on demand, you know, because I heard it had lots of nudity in it.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, that's very funny because it's not like a movie that it's the only people who would jerk off to it were like, pornography starved young boys in the suburbs who like were too bashful to look at porn because the sex scenes are not like sexy. It's a very, very funny, it's one of his funnier movies, and not like goofy, dumb funny like The Touch. It's genuinely very funny and upsetting experience watching Bob Crane from Hogan's Heroes.
He's just a pervy dude, right? And it kind of bites him in the ass in the end.
Well, sometimes, if you're a pervy dude and you meet another pervier dude, like a Willem Dafoe type pervier dude
who's got a camera,
and who knows how to do all this shit.
I got to rewatch it.
Yeah, well, I mean, dudes rock, right? When two pervy dudes get together, like, there's only one way it ends up, right?
So I know they're very different movies, but I could picture, and these are two movies I haven't seen in a long time, both Autofocus and this other one, but I feel like they'd make a great double bill. Is Autofocus and then that movie Wonderland with Val Kilmer where he played John Holmes.
Yeah, I never saw that.
Into taking part in like a murder or something like that.
Right.
Just like seedy crime, sexy. But they're not sexy is the thing.
Yeah,
like
they're kind of
they're seedy more than anything. I'm pretty sure Autofocus, if I were to rewatch it, would be a better movie than Wonderland, but I think that'd be a fun double bill.
I'm curious about Wonderland just to see Val Kilmer. Autofocus. Then I put the card counter.
I think Card Counter belongs in A tier, not for spoilers, but just because being the follow-up to First Reformed, it's like really hard not to compare the two.
Yes.
They are quite similar in a lot of ways.
That's part of it, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, and you know, and this is one of those things that many years from now, when people are listening to this show, of course, the
Studying.
TikTok teens, whatever the new version of that is, you know, they might not understand the cultural context under which the films were released, which is so important, and why cinema studies is important, yada yada yada. So, you know, I can see people enjoying The Card Counter more than First Reformed, but
Right.
seeing as how they were released, for me, it's always going to be that comparison.
Same.
But we watched that movie together.
Yeah, I
I've
went
only
in
seen it the
completely
one time.
blind.
Yeah, you had no idea.
You were like, come see the new Paul Schrader movie with me. I was like, I'm in. I hadn't even seen a trailer or anything.
So good.
Rock.
I wish, because I didn't know, I didn't know too many specifics, but I did know sort of what his tragic past
What his
was.
past. When that stuff came up, and the way he shoots it too,
It's
with
so-
that weird fisheye lens with the music, and I mean, I don't know, spoilers.
Sure, but, yeah.
He was a torturer at Abu Ghraib,
Yeah.
and those Abu Ghraib scenes, they just shot in such an unpleasant, disorienting way.
With the pounding like metal music that
Which
they're always
I
playing.
think is diegetic. They were probably
Yes.
playing it there to keep people up and stuff, but it was it made you just feel sick.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah. I remember that feeling in the theater, like just absolutely brutal movie.
yeah, I was sideswiped. Really enjoyed it though. Oscar
Yeah.
Isaacs is great. Is it Tiffany Haddish? Is she
Yeah,
one?
yeah, it's so weird sometimes. Like the actress he'll get, you know. Yeah, and you know what? Like she's good in it.
She's good. The kid
Yeah.
who he
Ty Sheridan, yeah,
he's great.
He's good. It's a good movie.
And everything, and of course Willem Dafoe.
Yeah,
And they all feel kind of off kilter, but it adds to it. Like it's kind of like an
Oh, yeah.
off kilter movie. Like remember that other Ukrainian poker guy who like takes on a really
Yes.
American persona?
Yes.
Like it's a strange film too.
It is, yeah. Well, I mean, it's like a kind of the quintessential Schrader film. And so, two things. I cannot describe the feeling I had in the theater when I realized it was like a good movie and was like a perfect follow up to First Reformed. Because after First Reformed, I thought, oh my god, he's finally made the transcendental style film he wanted to make.
Yeah.
Like, I hope he gets to live a few more years and make more movies. And then when you see this, it's like, oh, it's so satisfying just to see him like hit another one out of the park.
Yeah, it is a worthy follow up. And
Yeah.
also a good 1-2 punch.
And B, the second feeling I had when he did the fucking pickpocket ending again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, and it's one of the better ones too. Like
Yeah.
just the corny music and the slow-mo and everything. It's like, mwah. Okay, S tier.
Here we go.
Real quick. Okay. Right out of the gate, his first movie, 1978, Blue Collar. First film, one of his best. Out of the, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out of the 5 movies I put in the S tier, 4 of them fall under the depicts troubled men struggling through existential crisis punctuated by violent cathartic event.
Yep.
This one, Blue Collar, does not necessarily fit in that.
Okay.
It's about 3 men who are going through an existential crisis. And no, it's like three friends who are working at like coworkers at like an auto factory and getting involved in it's like Harvey Keitel, Richard Pryor, and Yaphet Kotto.
Wow.
Yeah, stacked. And Richard Pryor in particular, it's one of his best performances. He's funny in it,
Yeah.
but it's not a comedic performance. It's like a really good dramatic performance as well. And they're feeling like fucked, you know, as one does at the job, and they decide to like steal from their union, like do like a whatever. And anyway, I don't want to get too much into it. I think people should just watch it because again, it's I mean, obviously one of his most acclaimed movies, but it's not necessarily one of his most readily available. So seek it out. I'm not going to say anything else about it, just that it's one of the best movies about how being like a worker in under capitalism chews you up and spits you out and prevents you from getting what you want, and in some cases, some extreme cases, like in this movie, will actually kill you to prevent you from exposing any sense of how the system actually works, right? Okay, Mishima: A Life in Four Chapters, 1985.
I started watching this movie,
You did?
but I didn't finish it, only because sometimes I do that, not because I wasn't enjoying it.
It's okay. It's okay. It's got to be a specific mind frame you want to be in. Yeah. This is probably his greatest achievement, cinematically speaking. There isn't really, I mean, aside from Patty Hearst to some extent, there isn't really another movie that is this, staged as specifically as this movie is. The music as well with Philip Glass score. It is very much like, I mean, this is, certain movies get turned into operas. Like this would be perfect for that sort of thing, right? And boy, if there was ever someone who was going through an existential crisis that was then punctuated by a violent cathartic event, it might be Yukio Mishima.
Yeah.
The way that this movie unfolds, cutting from the last day of his life, where he's preparing his final piece of performance art, his seppuku, and then adaptations of like 4 short sort of adaptations of his work, that sort of to kind of get into the mind of Mishima. It is a beautiful movie. I saw it in the movie theater, I think at the Royal, which is making me sad because it doesn't do movies anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe Mishima's his best.
Yeah.
Hard to say. It's not the one that like means the most to me, really, right?
Yeah, me neither. But I mean, I haven't finished Mishima. I will, but it's regularly touted as being one of his. Not.
No hot takes in the S tier. These are these are straight up his 5 best movies. I think most people would have to agree. Light Sleeper, 1992.
I've seen this one.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
This is maybe my favorite of the lonely men at night writing in their diaries, pickpocket ending movies.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's also like a rare starring role for Willem Dafoe.
Yep.
And he's really good in it. He's very like underplayed, kind of like subtle, and right what you know, right? And I feel like Paul Schrader writing about like a
late night cocaine delivery man.
Yeah, but who services in the 80s and early 90s when this movie was made, this kind of like rise of the the white collar drug dealer.
Yeah,
and I mean
totally.
specifically for rich white people,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And yeah, this whole idea of his night worker movies like American Gigolo or this or that. It's like Willem Dafoe in beautiful suits, like walking around giving cocaine to David Spade, who goes on a great rant. David Spade's finest hour in this movie.
Well, Joe Dirt's. We'll get to Joe Dirt.
Yeah, we'll get to Joe Dirt. Yeah, and of course Susan Sarandon as well as his kind of friend, and then eventual pickpocket style I've loved you this whole time,
but also his boss,
but also
like
his
she
boss.
runs the operation. And then the Canadian actor who plays the captain in Titanic, he's kind of like the villain, and he's really good in that.
He
too.
is really good, and he's doing a goofy voice too, right?
Yeah, and he's just very sinister.
Yeah, what's his name? I always forget his name. It's Victor Garber.
There you
Victor
go.
Garber. Yeah.
Old Garby.
Really good S tier Garby content. Anyway, Light Sleeper, very cool movie. Affliction, 1997. This is like a perfect choice of subject matter for Schrader to adapt. It's a Russell Banks novel, the guy who wrote Sweet Hereafter. And I think he also wrote another novel that Schrader is going to be adapting for his next film with Richard Gere teaming back up again. Presumably Richard Gere, who will show his old man penis and balls.
Fucking better.
Affliction is just like, it's again like a perfect Schrader experience, right? Where Nick Nolte is giving an astonishing performance in a year where he was nominated for an Oscar for this film and lost the Best Actor Oscar to fucking Roberto Benigni for Life is Beautiful. A movie I still haven't seen just because I can't bring myself to, like, there's just no way I'm going to enjoy it. I just know, too much baggage. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that loser won instead of Nick Nolte giving what must be the performance of his career. It is such a uniquely depressing movie, like all of Schrader's movies. Again, Willem Dafoe is in it. Willem Dafoe as the calm, cool voice of reason. That's when you know that you're fucked. You know? And
well,
he's the chill dude. I mean, I guess he's pretty chill in
compared to
Sleeper
Nick
as well,
Nolte.
oh, Nick Nolte's so good in this movie. And anyway, it's just a movie about like generational trauma, murder, like
Good.
Small town living, just a man who alienates everybody in his life. Love it. And then finally, of course, First Reformed.
Yeah.
His late masterpiece. The movie that it was my favorite movie the year it came out.
Same.
I remember seeing it in theaters with friend of the pod, Maxim, and his mom, friend of the pod, Joanne. And it's the only time I've seen it, actually. I have not dared to watch it again just because it was such a powerful experience. Like at that point, I was into Schrader. I hadn't seen a lot of his movies, but I was aware. I had read some of his book, and I was aware of his love and deep study of like the transcendental style and filmmaking. It was really a beautiful thing to see him make a movie like that. That is also very much a hard-edged and like disturbing Schrader film. It just, I think, kind of brings everything together. And like I was saying, in comparison to Card Counter or Master Gardener, it feels the subject matter that he's chose to tell his same story over and over again for this movie just feels kind of perfect, right?
It worked really well.
Yeah, it worked really well. The environmentalism aspect of it, in comparison to say the white supremacy aspect of Master Gardener, or the interracial love redemption of that movie, which is like kind of hacky.
Yeah,
it's kind of stupid.
No, it was interesting, the idea of like a man of the cloth kind of coming to terms with the very real prospect of environmental collapse. This kind of perfect problem for a man of God, right? It's like, what just God, and right, his son was killed in Iraq, right? And he had encouraged his son to go. It's like, what just God like would take your son away from you in a meaningless war, and then completely ravage the planet that is his own children live on. It almost makes you want to wrap yourself up in barbed wire and put on an explosive vest, eh? I saw that in theater during the actual festival at TIFF.
Nice.
With a friend of the pod, Ben, who we went to school with.
Nice. Me.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went to school with you.
Yeah.
But,
friend of the pod, Ben.
Similar to the Card Counter, I went in not knowing anything about it. I just went in like,
perfect.
Oh, Paul Schrader's back.
Yeah.
Cool.
And
I think I forget what else was at TIFF that year, but I'd seen a couple other movies, probably with Ben, probably of my own accord. And I was like, oh, this is a really good year for TIFF. Like I saw some good stuff, and I was like, I've probably seen the best of what I'm going to see, but I'll go to this Paul Schrader movie.
Yeah.
Support old Schrades. And then I get there, and it wasn't even a full theater. Usually these TIFF screenings are like packed, filled to the brim. Everyone wants to go do it. But it wasn't full or anything. But I think everyone walked out of it being like, what did we just watch? Just such like a patient, slow burn, but like just well done film. And it became my favorite of the festival and my favorite of that year.
Yeah.
And then later on, when it got like a wider release through A24, I was visiting Kingston with my girlfriend at the time, and she was big into, helping the environment and stuff. So I was like, well, it's playing at the screening room. I did the old, so I used to, when we went to school and we lived in Kingston, I would tell people that my 1-2 punch was going to Taj Curry House a lot and then going to the screening room across the street.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, we got to do this for old time's sakes, and I'm going to take you to see First Reformed. We did, and she loved it. But I was like, maybe I've been over-exaggerating how often I used to go to Taj Curry House. Maybe I didn't go all that often. But I went, and the lady there remembered me. she remembered my order, and then she like brought out her son to introduce me to her son, because like
Nice.
and I told her, I was like, listen, I've been to India. Yours is my favorite curry I've ever had. Because it was like slightly different, because they were like Bangladeshi, so it was like slight variations. But I hope, and I told her, and I still believe this. I hope that place never closes, and I wish them the most success.
Hey, you want to go back to Kingston sometime? I'd love to do.
to.
I'd love to do exactly
Fuck
that.
yeah!
I had a similar experience at Raheem's Cuisine.
Oh, I don't remember Raheem's.
You remember? No, it was.
Oh, they also gave me a free mango lassi.
Oh,
was
nice.
one I had, yeah.
Well, that's what it's all about. Yeah. I went there and I was like, I wonder if he remembers us, and he did.
Which one was Raheem's?
Raheem's was up at up north on Princess, like fuck, I don't remember. You remember where John's Deli was? John's Delicatessen. It's like a small grocery store.
Yeah. I'd get like their fresh cut bacon there.
Yeah, it was close to there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That was the great part about Kingston, was that it had like a ridiculous amount of restaurants per capita. So there's a ton of places that I would see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there was a place like when you would be on the bus that would take you right onto campus, like in first year and stuff, when we lived in res, like not just the regular mega bus, but there was a coach bus that actually left from campus.
Right.
The route it took, it drove you back. It would drive past a place called like Hoagie World or something like that, which just looked like it was like the bottom floor of a house or something. It was a bit further out from where the students usually hang out and stuff like that. But I was like, I bet you that place has like amazing sandwiches and stuff, you know? Because it's those kinds of places that rock.
Paul Schrader's Hoagie World.
Yeah, Paul Schrader's
3D.
Yeah, any given night you would walk in there and find Paul Schrader. I love hoagies.
Well, thanks for listening to our mostly my indulging in my rant about Paul Schrader movies that I didn't really explain why I like them that much.
I've seen maybe 4 of them, and they would all be A and S tier.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. You don't need to. Yeah. So, I would say all of the movies I talked about are worth seeing if you are a student of cinema, a soldier of cinema, like Paul Schrader. However, if you're a casual, if you're kind of a layman or a loser,
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, then just stick to that S tier. Stick to the S and the A tier. You don't want to get into the weeds. You don't want to get into the weird shit. For the Schrader heads only, such as Adam Resurrected, which
I own.
Truly one of the strangest movies.
I own it, but I haven't watched it. Do you think I'd like it?
I think you should watch it.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know really if I
you
like
it.
I kind of. I mean,
You respect it?
I definitely respect it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I respect all his movies.
Is it upsetting?
I mean, yeah, I think it is. I think it's a movie about, very specifically about the like survivor experience of surviving concentration camps. This I guess the survivor guilt, but also the complete like psychological degradation that people would have experienced, and it does it in a very it's got a very specific tone, and I think a lot of people would just not like it and would find it just to be unpleasant. Which it is. So, but that's not my takeaway. My takeaway is go listen to the S tier, the A tier. Go watch those movies. Those are all really good movies. The B tier, those are also pretty good. The C tier, just watch all of Paul Schrader's movies. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
You're not a real student / soldier of cinema till you've seen every Paul Schrader directed movie. You worm, you piece of dirt, you fucking loser. If you don't watch every Paul Schrader movie, I swear to fucking God, I will find you, I will ridicule you in front of all your friends. I will tell everybody, look at this casual over here. He hasn't seen The Walker from 2007. This fuck. This guy, when The Canyons came out, he watched it ironically with his frat boy fucking friends in his stinky little dorm room, Anyway, yeah, sorry. I'm sorry.
No.
I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
I'll watch Adam Resurrected immediately after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Oh, okay, yeah. And you know what? Paul Schrader did write Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so that's good.
Goodbye.
Turn this off. I'm sorry, everybody. I didn't mean to rant like that.
Now you have to, I think, in a certain moment, free them. You know, do something unexpected. In Ida, it's the tracking shot at the end. You know, in Bresson, it's just a burst of music. You show a movie for an hour and a half, 2 hours with no music at all.
Quelque chose illumina sa figure.
Then all of a sudden at the end, boom, a big blast of Mozart. What are you going to do with something that aggressive? And the trick of someone who can use transcendental style is to suddenly freeze them.
Bonus. 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 Bonus.